Morning, everyone. As said, my name is Dalisu Mkhize. I'm the maintenance manager at Kuthala Colliery. I've been with the company for now going for 5 years. In the beginning, when I was there in 2012, it was called BHP, and now obviously with some structural changes, we now call South 32. All right. So in that beginning, I was also fortunate enough as a section engineer or the maintenance engineer at the time to also be involved in the PDS commissioning and installation process. So when I arrived from Anglo, moving over, I was fortunate enough to be part of the team. And it actually happened in my area as well, section 44. But for today's discussion, we just want to talk about the behavior plan that we used as a team, some of the issues that we faced, just to share with you guys. Also, what's important for us is what happened underground that actually helped us to relate the message more towards the heart of a person. Because we had a very close incident underground with one of our employees, and that actually helped us to galvanize the team to say that we really need to have this PDS rolled out throughout all the sections. Also, the analysis of data, because you have a system, you need to analyze the data, and then from there, modify your behavioral plans, or modify how you communicate with your people according to that. And then obviously the last slide is just to share with you in terms of our production performance. So looking at, is there an effect on production when you install the PDS system? Because obviously a lot of people are negative at first about the PDS, so we'd like to just share some of that as well. So just as an intro, well, we at Kuthala, we use a 24-volt system. There is a difference. There is a 12-volt system available in the market. Basically, it's a generator which emits a magnetic field, which then communicates with a tracking pad lamp, which is just a modified cap lamp that every employee wears. So that basically communicates between the machine. So the generator is on the machine, and then the lamp is on the individual. And then you get different zones depending how close you get to the machine, warning zones and the hazardous zones. So part of the behavioral plan that we use, what was very important for us is to try and have an enabling environment. So if you have an enabling environment or an environment which is conducive to make the right decisions, that's important for us. It's almost like when a lot of people will say housekeeping, housekeeping. If your workshop is a mess, the quality of work that you're going to get out of it is going to be of an inferior quality. So you need to ensure that your workshop that you have is of a high standard, everything is kept neatly, nicely packed, and so on, and labeled. So we needed to have an enabling environment for safety. So that was our vision. Some of the other things, obviously the shock factor of it all is quite a lot of fatalities have happened around a CM machine. So you have the enabling environment, and obviously you need a bit of a shock factor. So if we have a look at this slide, the circles actually indicate the operators. So guys with a remote that have killed themselves around the machine. The gray indicates the maintenance teams, so guys who were actually doing maintenance on the machine, the CM. And then the squares were just guys that were not even operators. So maybe your cable handler or your roof bolt operator assistants or the miner and so on and so forth. So from this, we can see that a lot of activity happens around a CM machine. Excuse me. So looking at the leadership behavioral plan and what guides us and where we get up to. So obviously the objective to have zero harm. But part of that is we need to make it sustainable. So we don't want to make it as a once-off. It needs to be sustainable. Now if you move over to your left, we've got our guiding principles, which is our company charter values, operating models, and our letter of intent of why we do business. Safe, cost-effective coal. Part of that is you've got the enabling environment set up which I spoke about, set by the leadership, which is the right people, the right tools, the right procedures, sufficient time and support by leadership. Adding to that, the right choices being made by the individuals, by themselves. Key focus areas for us around safety, so the training, the hardware itself. So the OEM that we use has to have a reliable hardware for us to operate with, so as to create trust amongst ourselves as leaders and the guys using the machines. Procedures, updating our maintenance procedures and updating our checklists as well. And then obviously the leadership support. So continuous coaching, continuous reviewing of data, and continuous positive engagement with our teams as well, which will then get us to our zero harm and sustainability going forward. Now, to try and unpack that around the right people. So this is a continuous process. As you can see, there's no arrows, there's no start, there's no stop. It's a continuous circle that you continuously do, just like you do a continuous risk assessment. So firstly is the risk assessment itself. The SOPs, one of the rules that we have is a 3-meter rule, which was set up before we installed the PDS system. After that, we've got our training, our HIRA, hazard identification risk assessments that we need to do, SOPs, and then the supervision. So we needed to equip our supervisors to do proper inspections, just not on the actual machine itself and the installation of the equipment, but how is the behavior of the people that are operating the machines. And then continuous assessments through PTOs, coaching, and our works instructions. With the right procedures, again, we had to look into how do we create a bypassing procedure, because obviously in maintenance, you can not have the system enabled in a live position. So when you're doing maintenance, you have to put in controls to ensure that while you're doing maintenance, the machine is being bypassed. The sustainability portion will come in so that everybody coming in is aware that on this mine in Kutala, we have a PDS system, which we will then do through our induction packs. The maintenance strategy thereof, and the warehouse stock. So with the OEM, we have to have a very good relationship to say how much stock do we need, because we don't want to get ourselves into a situation where the reliability and the operation of the machine is stopped because lack thereof of stock available. And then obviously the risk assessment of pre-use checks and over inspections being done. But now more on the leadership support for the PDS. I'd like to start from the bottom and work my way up. So addressing at-risk behavior. So what do we do when we see at-risk behavior? Do we use it as a stick of hitting somebody negatively? Or do we use it as a stick of coaching to understand why? One of the examples that we had was we saw a lot of trips on our roof bolter machines once we had actually installed the system. We didn't know why. So we had a session, a team that got together, safety reps, obviously the right stakeholder engagement, went underground, and we found that what happens is our guys, when they're doing sidewall installation of roof bolts on our pillars, the one guy stands there with an Oslo strap. So an Oslo strap is just a wire mesh that they use to hold the slips together. Now, that continuously tripped the machine. The guys were doing the right thing. They were supporting sidewall slips. Right, but in a way now, they were encroaching the 3-meter rule. So through that, we then developed Z hooks that will assist the guys to install it without having a guy actually standing there. But obviously, if we went there with a knocking stick, we wouldn't have actually found out the root cause of why the guys are standing there. And that actually leads up to understanding from an operational reason why certain trips happen, because you need to have that two-way communication. Yes, we are leaders. Yes, we make leadership decisions, and yes, we make business decisions, but we need to take into consideration what the operator on the floor is doing. And by doing that is we need to have positive engagement sessions with him. Review meetings are very important. So part of that is looking at the data and picking out specific behaviors from the data, which I'll show you an example of some of the data that we have. Obviously, we are always continuously improving. And sharing that information in a team. So one of the things we do is we'll take the team away from the underground environment, put them in an environment which is not what they're used to, and try and have an open conversation with them for them to share with us some of the issues that they might have. For us, what's also very important is we needed to make a decision to say the PDS is a stop, no go. So with or without production, if the PDS system is not working, that machine will not operate. And that had to be a leadership decision that everybody was aligned with. And then there on top, obviously, the interaction, training, and coaching on the risk. So part of the review meetings would happen on non-production shifts, so on maintenance shifts. Fortunately enough, we have those maintenance shifts. And that's just some of the items that will be discussed, part of the team. The mine captain would run that, and then from there, he will be there with his team in our mock mine that we have on surface, and they'll have their review meetings. With obviously specific plans that the guys and action plans that the guys will follow from the concerns. Now, participation for management is crucial. So every Monday, as managers, we spend our time underground. And part of that is re-emphasizing the importance of PDS. Because if we don't have, or if we don't say the same message long enough and continuously enough, and showing it as well, it will not be embedded. Take myself, for example. If I don't wear the PDS lamp correctly underground, I exhibit a certain behavior which the guys will then follow. Because I'm telling them that I'm not taking the system important. So that's very important. I'd just like to share with you a video. Because of time, I'll just move over to the clip where Fuzi speaks about his side of the story and what actually happened.
Welcome.
Atiwat was mine. Kisibit amo BH to Malsu. Kabudula mo pola D115. Kisibit amo BH Billeting Kutala underground section 44. Mosebit Zuaga Kisibit a continuous mine operate. Tiwa chifia 10. Atiwat chifia 10 ranka lampi. Naloka tshwanelo la ga kena a kwa ke ditaena ga fitla sectioneng a fitla sectioneng la bua ka safety ga qeta ga kena ka sectioneng ga searcha le ka se ya mono speed go no se ya wepe e1 mono ha ke tlamea o qeta wepe e1 ke ka kwa ke fitlhelwa ke modikwadikwa ha ke fihlela ke mo dikwatikwane ya ka pelo ya ka ya thebuwa nyane ha nga ba ka hlotse ke sa tsebile hona o la etsala ba ka phumana ke lefatshe batho bana ba ditšhete ka ga ba ile ke le go ditšhete ka di hana o sebetsa ba itse ka ga fihlela ba thebuwa ba tlo hlahela ba fumana go etsala go fumana motho ke kannete le tshibase ne le se le teng le maina e ba batho bana ba tla kaofela e ba mphamisa mono o teng ne ka ke tsoa go gila ka go bona re mo utuke ba re mo utukena fela ga gone o ne wa kula o romela sepetlele PSC ena e right ha go ha be ska ba ka yona ke be ke le siko fatshe Very kinetic, what is the Watanga? My name, Kakanya Yampisi, mind of it. What was on a go? You won't can. Here I said, kinds of my lady. But 2 hours to a side, I got boom. With a hand night, really fast. On what about Kubona? Ha, that yes, I try a chemical box. As a snappy. And at a bit, grandpa. I feel what I get so. Kinetic system mina kutlwa ke kgothaletsa hore e ka sebetsa di-mine tsohle kaofela mona South Africa.
So, obviously, I think most of us, if we are human beings, that should have touched us somewhere in our hearts. And there's a lot of things that we can say as leaders that an emotional message like that or an emotional plea like that will touch far more people than what we sometimes say as leaders. And for us, what Dalisu did there, in a way, influenced the whole mine from the lowest level. We had people coming to us to say, when are we starting, or when are we going to be installing the PDS systems in their sections after this? Because it touched them and they wanted to feel safe. So some of the data that we look at on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis as well, is interactions between machines. So we come from a history where we had close to about 40,000 trips on a machine. So 40,000 trips to reset a CM on average will take you between the HM31s close to 60 seconds or a minute. So you got 40,000 trips that you need to reset for every minute. Then from there, we went down to an average for the week to about 600 trips. Currently now, we don't know where's our threshold. We don't have enough data to say, is the number 400, is the number 200, is the number 600 for argument's sake. But what we know is, from this, we have come down drastically from 40,000 to sometimes our highest interactions on a 3-day shift, or on a 3-shift day, to 1,500 trips on all machines. So on this sheet as well, the last 3 blocks, you will have morning, afternoon, and night shift, and all the operators there. I've taken out the names, just by the way. And then it will tell you how often does that particular person enter a hazardous zone, into a warning zone, and so on and so forth. And then from there, this will guide you to have a conversation to see if that person exhibits an at-risk behavior or not. So obviously the big question is around production performance. So what is the effect thereof? The top left-hand graph just shows section 44. So section 44, the one section, which is our first section to have the PDS, started in August. I've put it up there in percentage-wise because obviously I can't share the exact values. So if you have a look in there, the August line is 100%, so that's our base value. So what that graph shows you is that as of September, the production went down just below 80% of that value for the following 4 months, and then afterwards, in January 2013, we actually picked up. That was for that section, first section we ever did. So there was a lot of lessons that we learned from there that mainly has to do with ourselves as leaders and the behaviors that we exhibit as well. Because there's definitely a lot of unsurety from the team, and we need to be positive to them to say this will work. And obviously after that in 2013 with Untitled, that actually helped us quite a lot because the guys understood that we need to have this. Now, this year, in January, all our sections underground have got PDA system. So all 13 sections have got PDA system. If you look at that now, we had one of our best months last month with all our sections installed with PDS because its behavior takes time. But we have to lead that change if we want to see that positive improvement going forward. And I can confidently say to you now, we haven't had any incidences in terms of man and machine interfacing. Yes, we have safety concerns in other areas that we are dealing with, but with regards to this, for us, we see it as the right way to go. If there's any questions, I may try to answer.
The question, what were the first reactions from your leadership side when you found machines were being stopped with people coming in? What do you do to those people that stop these machines? Walks into the area of influence and all of a sudden now your machine stops, either your shuttle car or your CM or whatever. What was your reaction first as management from that?
Thank you for that question. I'll try and divide it up to higher management and middle management. So middle management, supervisory level, mine captains, and shift bosses. So with them, they were very irritated by that, profusely irritated, honestly. But with us, as managers, we saw the benefit of it. So we developed a template that we used. And in no way in that template do we ask anything about production effects in that template. No way. So we'll ask questions like, how are you feeling that particular morning? If we know that that particular person has got a chronic illness, because we monitor that from a health perspective, have you had your medication? How are things going at home? If you were part of EAP, Employee Assistance Program, we'll ask you, how are you doing about that? So we'll try and build some sort of a framework of mind of that particular person, and then begin to ask the question of, why do you need to go and stand there? And if that's the case, the first couple of times we went there as management as part of the investigations to actually ask those questions. So it was very important that we walk the talk ourselves because our middle management were very much frustrated about it.
Thank you very much for a very positive story. I don't know if you have a bonus system, a production bonus system at the mine. What did you do in that time when the production dropped by 40%?
Oh, very interesting question. So we never adjusted the bonus system. So, because for us, we didn't want the guys to substitute any other feelings than what they had at that particular moment. So if they felt frustrated, we wanted to assist them and find out why and sort out the problem. So by us adjusting now the bonus system, and we'll actually be perpetuating a behavior of saying, well, if things go bad, well, we should just adjust the bonus system or whatever. It was a very tough time for us, but we needed to be very honest with those people and find out what is the problem, rather than going for a quick fix, a monetary value, and adjusting bonuses. Because sustainably going forward, that's not going to help us morally, it's not going to help us as a business as well.
So, yes, I just want to know, when you started your presentation, you mentioned that it was not easy for you when you started to implement the PTS system. So I just want to know what makes the employees now to change and believe that the PTS system is working very well. What makes them to change and believe on it? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the most important thing is showing active caring. Active caring means if somebody says something, how soon do you respond to it? And how soon do you give feedback, whether it's good or bad? feedback doesn't necessarily mean that you have to say, well, I'm going to give you a raise. But everybody wants feedback. So whenever there's an issue, you need to show active caring and give feedback as soon as possible to that particular individual. The other thing is we had to work tirelessly with the OEM to ensure that we, increase the reliability of component life, to show that we are also enthusiastic about it. And it's not something that we just thought up in the office and we said implement. If there were breakdowns, I would find myself underground assisting the guys to show the importance that we need to have this system running. But I think the most important thing is active caring. So if somebody says something to you, that person needs feedback, whether positive or bad.